While most of the world's major car manufacturers were lining up in the same queue, the electric vehicle queue, one company was quietly doing something completely different. While everyone was talking about batteries, charging times, and range, Mazda was working in its labs on an engine that many thought was obsolete. We're talking about the rotary engine, the very engine that was once considered a failed technology, but which has now become the talk of the global automotive market. When Mazda's CEO said, "Our new rotary engine will shake up the electric vehicle industry," people initially dismissed it as just a bold statement. But as the truth about this engine began to emerge, even the big companies were taken aback. Just imagine, while other companies were focused on making bigger batteries, Mazda thought, what if we made the engine smarter? This isn't the old rotary engine, it's a completely new design, one that Mazda worked on silently for years, and now that this technology is coming to light, it's bound to create a stir in the electric vehicle market. Stay tuned until the end of this video because we'll explore the specific engine technology Mazda has used in this new rotary engine and why people are saying it could revolutionize the world of electric vehicles. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel so you can be among the first to see such groundbreaking and surprising news from the automotive industry. Before we talk about Mazda's groundbreaking new engine, it's important to take a step back and understand who Mazda is, where its journey began, and where it stands in the global automotive industry today. Because without understanding the company's story, the significance of its technology won't be fully appreciated. So, looking at the past few years, Mazda sells approximately 1.22 to 1.3 million vehicles worldwide annually. Now this number may not sound as large as, say, Toyota or Volkswagen, but Mazda's strength has never really been in sheer volume. Around 2022 to 2023, Mazda's global sales were about 1.25 million units, with the largest market being the US, followed by Japan, Europe, and Australia. Mazda currently doesn't have a presence in India, but its brand is, considered quite strong globally. In terms of market share, Mazda accounts for roughly 1 to 1.5% of the global automotive industry, so this means the company isn't a mass-market giant, but rather a niche brand selling fewer cars, but known for its identity, design, and engineering. Toyota sells around 10 million cars annually. The Volkswagen Group is in a similar range. Hyundai and Kia together reach 6 to 7 million, and Tesla has now reached around 1.82 million. Compared to these companies, Mazda definitely lags in terms of numbers but stands apart in its philosophy and approach. Today, Mazda is considered a premium yet affordable brand. It's not really a manufacturer of budget cars, but it's also not a luxury brand like BMW or Mercedes. Instead, Mazda chooses a middle ground, putting the focus on driving pleasure, design, and reliability. This is exactly why Mazda customers in the United States and Europe often say, "This car is fun to drive," which, honestly, is a sentiment you rarely hear in today's EV-dominated world. So, how did Mazda, a small company, get to where it is today? Well, its beginnings were very humble. Mazda started as a small factory around 1920, and interestingly, it didn't even manufacture cars at first. It gradually moved into two-wheelers, then small cars, and, eventually, into passenger cars. But, Mazda really made its mark when it took a gamble on unconventional technologies like the rotary engine. While other companies were playing it safe, Mazda wasn't afraid to take risks. Although the rotary engine brought Mazda recognition, it also brought quite a few challenges. Questions popped up about fuel efficiency, emissions, and reliability. At times, it honestly seemed like Mazda wouldn't survive. In the 2000s, the company faced financial difficulties and, for a while, even relied on support from Ford. But Mazda didn't give up. It learned from its mistakes and adopted a new philosophy: fewer models, better quality, and robust engineering. So, in the last 10 to 15 years, Mazda introduced technologies like Sky Active which, involved redesigning the engine gearbox and body pretty much from the ground up. This actually resulted in Mazda cars offering better mileage, a smoother drive, and lower emissions, all without going fully electric. Honestly, this was the period when Mazda rebuilt itself and really established its place as a small but respected company. Today, as the whole world rushes towards electric vehicles, Mazda is once again demonstrating its old habit, thinking differently from the crowd. While its sales might be lower than some of the other giants, its voice is still heard. The industry recognizes Mazda as a company that doesn't just follow trends but actually questions them, and perhaps that's why when Mazda talks about its new engine, people don't take it lightly. The history of the rotary engine and, yeah, why people kind of forgot about it. So, when a lot of people hear the name rotary engine, the same question usually pops into their heads. What exactly is it? Well, simply put, a rotary engine is an engine where the pistons don't move up and down. Instead, a triangular rotor rotates in a circular motion. In most regular car engines, pistons move up and down to generate power. But in a rotary engine, everything happens through rotation. That's actually why, when this engine first showed up, folks thought it was the future. At first, the rotary engine was, really popular because it was super small, lightweight and smooth. It had fewer parts, less vibration, and it ran smoothly even when the RPMs were high. A rotary engine of the same size as a regular engine could actually make more power. That's why sports car manufacturers were really drawn to it. Driving a car with this engine was just a unique experience. Fast, smooth, and without those jolts you'd expect. Now, this is where Mazda comes into the picture. Mazda was the company that truly embraced the rotary engine. While other companies were only experimenting with it, Mazda basically said, no, we will work on this. Cars like the RX-7 and later the RX-8 became famous because of this engine. The rotary engine also did exceptionally well in racing, and Mazda even went on to win major races like Le Mans. Back then, a lot of people thought the rotary engine would become common in everyday cars. But the story began to change here. As good as the rotary engine was in performance, it started to show problems in everyday use. The biggest problem was fuel efficiency. The rotary engine consumed a lot of fuel. When gasoline was cheap, this wasn't a major issue. But as fuel prices rose, people started to prioritize fuel efficiency. Another major problem was the engine's lifespan and reliability. The seals in rotary engines, known as apex seals, wore out quickly. This meant that after a few years, the engine's performance would decline and repairs would be expensive. This became a major drawback for the average customer, who wanted a car that would run reliably for years without problems. Then came the era of emissions regulations. As governments implemented stricter rules regarding pollution, the rotary engine faced even more difficulties. Making it clean was not easy. It consumed more fuel, and without complex technology, it was becoming difficult to meet the new emission standards. Meanwhile, conventional piston engines were becoming better, cheaper, and more reliable. Gradually, the perception developed that the rotary engine was fun, but not really for the average person. It was fine for car enthusiasts and experts, but just too risky for the everyday commuter. Companies began to distance themselves from it, and almost all manufacturers, except Mazda, abandoned it. When Mazda discontinued the RX-8, a lot of people just assumed that the story of the rotary engine was over. In the automotive industry, it was considered a failed experiment. Folks thought the technology was good, but maybe just ahead of its time, and that it would never really return. With the advent of battery, hybrid, and then electric vehicles, this belief that the rotary engine was a thing of the past became even more firmly entrenched. That's why today, when someone mentions the rotary engine, most people say, "Oh, that's old news." People had written it off as a finished story. They believed that the problems with this engine were just insurmountable. But, perhaps that was the biggest mistake, because history shows that some technologies don't actually die. They simply wait for the right time. And perhaps that's what happened with the rotary engine. The world forgot about it, but Mazda didn't. While other companies observed the problems with the rotary engine and immediately concluded that this technology is